What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So Witcher 3, of course, came out last week, and people were pretty excited about it. It got good reviews across the board, but there was some curiosity about how the game would sell going to the Switch after, of course, being out for several years on other platforms. Well, we have our first look at sales, and I think it surprised some people, especially some that I've talked to, seemed a bit surprised as to where it placed on the charts. We're going to go over that because might give CD Projekt Red some more confidence in the Switch, which is could lead to some interesting stuff. Also, I want to talk a little bit about a feature that has been confirmed, I think once again, but it's pretty clear at this point for the Xbox Scarlett. And then we found out some more information about things like resolution and frame rate, which was kind of just thrown out there. So a lot of stuff to go over here. As always, guys, enjoy these videos. Make sure you hit the like button. It does help out. And get subscribed so you can stay updated on all of the gaming news going on in the gaming world. And we're actually going to start today with Jedi Fallen Order because I keep harping on this game, specifically about microtransactions. And that's because they keep saying they won't exist. Like they keep saying no microtransactions at all. And I keep pointing it out because if it does happen, we will have so many instances of where they just did not tell the truth at all. And the latest one comes to us from PC Games, where they had an interview with them and developers once again saying, I assure you, no microtransactions will be in this game. But I still have my doubts, as I'm sure as many other people do, and that has to do with EA, of course, because if EA sits down with them, Respawn, and says, hey, you got to put in cosmetic items that we can sell. You have to put in different lightsaber colors that you can only get with $1, you know, and if they tell them that, well, Respawn's going to do it because EA's calling the shots. And based on EA's track record, would it really surprise any of us for them to do that? Not really, and that's why everyone's still skeptical about this game. Even months after release, people will still be skeptical about this game. The good thing, I guess, is it is single player, so it's not going to be a games as a service just because it's not this long multiplayer style game. Once we beat the game, I guess we're for the most part, we're out. It does sound like there's a lot to it though. So like I said, I'll be checking out when it comes out, but for now, still unsure about all of the microtransaction stuff. Also, if you have not downloaded Asphalt 9 on the Switch, it might be worth checking out. I downloaded it and checked it out myself just to see, and it's a pretty fun racer. It's a free to play game. So yes, there are a ton of microtransactions, all that stuff, but if your game's going to be free, you got to make money on it somehow. At least I understand that. But this game is on the Switch, and it's now hit 1 million installs. In fact, they put out a full press release on this and then talked about how more content would be coming to the Switch version of Asphalt 9 just because of how well it's doing, and that's actually pretty cool. Now, the game itself reminds me of Burnout because when you're playing it, you even have a button that literally spins your car in place to knock out other cars, and it's pretty fun. I think you can get a kick out of it if you just download it and try it out. It's not like it's a simulated racer, but with a ton of arcade elements. Like they have all real cars and everything, but you know, you hit a button and like boost forward like crazy, and again, you're flipping your cars around and stuff. It's pretty fun. It's free to play though, so keep that in mind. It's not necessarily going to be the full experience without either having to pay or grind for all that stuff, but still pretty fun and it's free, so it might be worth checking out. Also, we had Session unveiled, E3 of 2018. That was on the Xbox stage. If you remember, I thought that was Skate 4. I got really excited there for a minute. I had played Session already in Kickstarter, and I thought the controls were a bit weird, but it did release on Steam in early access in September, and it was supposed to be coming to the Xbox One this month in October. However, there was a statement put out by developers saying that it would be pushed to November or December of this year for the Xbox One for it to be released, citing that they were still taking time to port and get it just right, which, of course, if you put out a game that's not ready, it's going to be broken like crazy, so I get why they want to maybe take a little more time. Now, the one that I played, which was like this little boxed off area just to kind of skate around and get a feel for the controls, was a bit odd. I wasn't in love with the controls. However, the one that we're seeing now is basically skating around in New York, which is pretty cool, and I was going to check it out when it released on the Xbox One, and I thought it'd be coming up in the next few days, but it means I'll just have to wait maybe an extra month or two. We've been hurting for some good skateboarding games in general, so hopefully this one comes out and is really good on the Xbox, as we don't have the old days of skateboarding with just Skate and Tony Hawk Pro Skater. Skate 4 is like who knows what happened to that thing, and that'd be like one of the easiest games for EA to monetize. And Tony Hawk Pro Skater, the last one we saw, you just fall through the floor half the time. So we'll see. Maybe Session ends up being really good for the Xbox, but we'll have to wait an extra month to find out. And guys, some of the quick to the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start with the initial sales for The Witcher, and then we also had some for Ring Fit. These are actually out of the UK, as generally these are the first ones that will be reported for the week. These include all physical sales, and we have a few numbers specifically around The Witcher 3's release, which are pretty impressive. But let's go to the top 10. As you can see here, starting with FIFA 20 at number 1 makes sense. It's very popular in the UK sales charts. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, strangely, is number 2. Maybe that's just because of the Switch Lite doing well, and people are just picking up Mario Kart 8 Deluxe because it's the most popular game on the Switch. Ring Fit Adventure actually debuted at 3, which is pretty good. Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Breakpoint at 4. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt Game of the Year Edition at 5, and that includes all of them. But we're going to come back to that because it looks like it was pretty much all Switch version that made that bump happen. Plants vs. Zombies at 6. Minecraft, that's the Switch edition, at 7. At number 8, we have Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, still actually hanging out in the top 10. That's good. Grand Theft Auto 5, which will just never go away from sales charts ever, at 9. And then Borderlands 3 at 10. So while Mario Kart 8 Deluxe was the best-selling Switch game of the week, The Witcher 3 actually increased sales 1,000%. It was like 999% from the week prior. A few of those were like Xbox One and PS4 sales, but a vast majority were Switch sales. Literally, the Switch appears to have brought this game back from like being completely missing from the sales charts, jumping all the way up here, as you can see, into the top 10. That is very impressive, and it does make us wonder a bit about just, I guess, CD Projekt Red and how they view their first shot on a Nintendo system here. I mean, this is them bringing a game that's very, very big to the Switch, 32 gigabyte cartridge, all kinds of stuff in the packaging and everything, even like a little thank you note. CD Projekt Red and Nintendo didn't really work together. So it's very interesting to see this not only show up on the Switch, but so far initial reports showing that it did very, very well. So, I mean, maybe they have some more plans. I don't know if Cyberpunk is just going to show up on the Switch. It would be interesting to see that even try to happen, but I mean, The Witcher 3 is there. I think maybe that's for a next-gen system or something, 3 years from now when it comes out, 2023 or something on the next-gen Switch, something like that. I mean, look at The Witcher 3. It took, years and years to come to Nintendo's platform, but they have other games like, they could get Witcher 2 even could come over from the 360, I guess, technically. They have a card game, Gwent. They could do a couple of things if they really wanted to, but CD Projekt Red, of course, is working heavily on Cyberpunk, and maybe in the future they'll look back at how The Witcher 3 sold and say, hey, you know what? Maybe we will move Cyberpunk over to this new Switch 2 system that is strong enough to run it. We're going to see it run on the base Xbox One, so hey, if the next Switch is like a PS4, basically, you could see that happen. Now, the other thing, of course, Ring Fit Adventure being at 3 is pretty interesting as well, although I think it was marketed to the point where it's an RPG that deals with fitness, and people were probably just curious about the technology that kind of went into it. So, yeah, but hey, so far so good for Witcher, and again, Mario Kart jumping to number 2 is still very interesting as well, but it just shows that that game is going to be probably the Switch's best-selling game when we get to the end of this generation, even over like a Mario Kart 9 if that launches, just because this has been on the market for so long. Next up, let's talk about Microsoft and the Xbox Scarlett. That, of course, we believe is coming out holiday 2020, right next to the PlayStation 5. Maybe within a week of each other, they'll come out, similar to what happened with the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4, but they do have their new Elite V2 controller, which I desperately want to get because I like their original one, but this new one seems to solve a lot of issues I have with the one that I have now, and I'll get it and we'll rip it apart and do all that fun stuff. But that's coming out in a couple of weeks, and something a lot of people have asked is, what happens if I buy this controller for, $150 or $170? It's an expensive controller, and then Scarlett comes out. Does it work? Is that a thing? Well, interestingly enough, yes, it is. And I thought this had been talked about previously, but let's just get straight confirmation, as you're seeing here, from James Shields, who is the product marketing manager for the Xbox accessories at Microsoft, saying, yep, all Xbox One controllers, they're just going to work with Scarlett. So that's good. If you want to invest in the new Elite V2 controller, you can at least still use it with the Scarlett. Now, the thing about this is, it's going to be interesting to see when that happens, because I don't think on the PlayStation side that the DualShock 4 will work with the PlayStation 5, specifically because they are introducing a bunch of new features, right? Haptic feedback, rumble, so they will be targeting that, although we've seen third-party Switch controllers work fine without that. But they're also going to do things with adaptive triggers. We believe there's going to be some sort of microphone built in. There's an enhanced speaker. There's a lot of stuff going on with the PlayStation 5 controller, but maybe Microsoft doesn't want to do all of that. Maybe they want to spend more time with maybe the console itself rather than try to redefine their controller. What if they just use the same controller with a few extra things? For example, the V2 is going to have a built-in battery, and it'll also have USB-C. I mean, outside of that, and maybe some haptic feedback, replacing the archaic rumble motors in the current Xbox One controller, is there much else that people really are like, I need that? I don't know, maybe not. Maybe people would be okay with, seriously, just a slightly altered Xbox One controller, basically, and then your older ones are still compatible, so if you have 3 of them, you can still have a bunch of friends play without having to buy all new controllers. Maybe that's not as bad of an idea, but I do like what we're hearing about with the PlayStation 5 controllers. And to go a little further, Aaron Greenberg was talking a bit about the Xbox Scarlett to the Xbox official magazine, is what he said. But with the next gen, I think you'll see a big upgrade in CPU, because we really want to make sure that you don't have any compromises with the frame rates. Yes, we can do 4K, but we can also do 120 frames per second, so I think that type of capability will be something that people don't see today. So, okay, I like the idea of very high frame rates, because generally with high frame rates comes high responsiveness. It feels very fluid. It feels good, you know, everything is happening on screen very quickly. I like the idea of that, as long as your TV can, of course, support higher frame rates in terms of refresh rate and everything. A lot of monitors are out now to where people have them for PC gaming, and hey, if the Xbox Scarlett can really push frame rate and everything feels really, really good, or maybe it's just locked at 60 and it's so far above 60 there's never a stutter at all, I think that's what a lot of people would like. 4K is great, sure, but for me, I don't know if, like, is 8K worth sacrificing frame rate if we get to that point? Like, 4K's conquered. Do we need 8K or do we need 4K 120? Like, which one do we need? I don't think that's going to happen with Scarlett. I think he's talking about them separately, but even beyond that, would we rather have high frame rate with 4K, or do we need to go like 30 frames 8K? I'm kind of on the boat of, I think we're good at 4K. Let's work on that frame rate. Next up, let's talk about THQ Nordic, as they have established a subsidiary in Japan. Now, this is going to be used mostly for marketing specifically, it seems, and distribution, but this kind of leans into the idea of THQ Nordic, which is to continue to grow and get very, very large. They've been building their IPs for quite a while. Now it looks like they're kind of just building up the logistical side of their company, and that makes sense. They, of course, have a spot in the US, and to move out to Japan as well is pretty cool to do that, and they're kind of staffing up with people who are very familiar with Japan and the idea and the workings of Japan and the market. So I wouldn't be too surprised to see them maybe do some work with developers in Japan as well, and maybe some other IPs there. Maybe they go out and start looking for IPs that are more appealing to the Japanese audience as well. I mean, THQ Nordic buys a lot of properties and games, and they develop quite a bit. They're doing it very old school right now with a lot of their games. So I at least like the idea of that. And then we did also get a bit more information on Darksiders Genesis. They put out this trailer here, and we have a release date. It's going to be staggered, though, and this is something I was a little concerned about because we didn't really hear a ton about this, but PC and Stadia, yeah, it's going to launch on Stadia first, by the way, with PC. That's going to be December 5th of 2019. This, of course, is the kind of the almost like Diablo-style looking game that has Strife as one of the main characters, which is cool because Strife looks like a really neat character. And then it appears that the console versions will be 2020. As far as I can tell, IGN had it listed as February 14th for the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox release. The Switch version does not appear to be named as that, so maybe that's going to be its own thing down the road even after that, or they forgot to list it. Hard to say, but THQ Nordic has been pretty good with their Switch support recently, and to see them go PC and Stadia first, maybe they just want to get it out this year at least in time for holiday, and then they can work towards consoles, or maybe Stadia. Maybe they see some interest there from Google. Hard to say, but at least for now, you'll be able to pick it up first week of December on PC, and hey, you can stream it on Stadia. And our last bit of news, if you're still playing Pokemon Go, you're gonna be pretty excited to know that player versus player online battles are coming to the game. And that's something that I was hoping would be there back when I played it, like like when it came out, but they have been building on the game for quite a while now, of course, and they put out this statement here that does talk about what they're referring to as the Go Battle League. It says, battling has been a core part of the Pokemon universe since the very beginning. We're excited to announce the development of a feature that will build upon trainer battles, the current form of player versus player battling that exists within Pokemon Go. This feature will be called Go Battle League. They also talk about how to gain entry into the Go Battle League, you're going to be having to walk. So you're going to have to move around. You can't just be at home, apparently, to do this. You have to walk, I guess, kind of like hatching an egg, but you're on the move, and then you'll gain an entry into this. So it's interesting. It's good to see that they are going to be doing that. We're still kind of waiting on, I guess, when all this is happening, but they are at least working towards it, and that's something people have been wanting for quite a while, and hopefully won't wait too long, but you're definitely going to have to get out and start walking, apparently. But I figure if you're doing Pokemon Go, you're at least hunting for Pokemon anyway. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day, as you're seeing here. This one is from Delta Time, saying, I wonder what they do with the art style of Okami with current hardware. That is actually a very, very good question. See, Okami is a great looking game still today, actually. You look at it and you go, okay, yeah, it's a great art style. That was developed for the PS2 back in the day. And that's what a good art style will get you. A game that really breaks generations. Like, you don't think about, like, if you look at games that tried to be realistic during the PS2 and the Xbox era, it's downright hilarious to look at now. Even the 360 and the PS3 have not aged well either. Right? You look at that, any of those generations, if they attempted to be very, very realistic, it does not look good now, right? And that's kind of what happens. Whereas if you have games that used an art style like an Okami, for example, it works well. It moves up in generations, it's gone to several different platforms, and no one ever looks at it and goes, this is an ugly game. But I do wonder what they could get out of Okami with something like a PlayStation 4 or an Xbox One or the Switch next to them, or maybe it's a game that doesn't come out until like the PlayStation 5 or the Xbox Scarlett, and ooh, man, that's gonna look insane. I hope they stick with the similar art style in general, right? Kind of like the cel-shaded look and everything, rather than go and try to make it very realistic looking. I don't think they would. I think they would stick with what they've done, and it could just look really, really cool. So, hey, I'm hoping it is a thing. I'm hoping Okami 2 does happen, or the sequel to Okami. I know people are talking about Okami Den and everything, but like the sequel to Okami happening in a generation where they can do some really neat effects. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit the like button. It really helps out. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below about everything we talked about, whether it's The Witcher 3's performance in sales. Do you think CD Projekt Red will look back on The Witcher 3 and say, okay, yeah, that performed well. What else can we do with the Switch here? And then what do you think about Microsoft and the Scarlett and their older Xbox One controllers at least being able to work with the Scarlett? Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.